Hi, my name's Wayne Evans. I'm going to give a testimony today on how I've changed my life and come to Jesus. I'll take you back to when I was younger, back to school, where I was one of those kids where I was always up for trying things and trying stuff new. And we went out on the weekends, bought a load of spliffs, had a few beers, and around 13, 14, pretty naughty kid. I don't think this helped from my dad leaving when I was around 12, and around when he left, my nan died, my auntie died, my granddad died, all in the space of a year, 18 months. And with my mum being a lone parent, I think I wrapped around my little finger and done pretty much what I could do. But this, as I come to the end of the school years, obviously every weekend now we always had a little session where the lads would meet up and we'd camp over the parks, and we would buy a lot of weed to smoke. Really, to be fair, got to a point where we get through £100 worth on a weekend and a few crates of beer quite easily camping out. But being me, I always had to push things a little bit more. So me and my friends, he started getting into higher drugs, bits of speed, and so he was having bits of speed on the night and still going to school. This was still at the end of the year, but again I had to push it that little bit more, and we started injecting it. And to me, really, this is probably the low point really for me for my teens. Only done it a few times, but that few times the needles would have been infected or something. I remember one point I went to Glastonbury, and through the weekend I must have got through around 20 pills from Friday night to Saturday night, to a point where I remember one point I was watching a film with a cup of coffee and I was that gone. I was trying to pull ice cubes out my tea. No idea what I was doing, but it was pretty rough. Come back from that Glastonbury weekend to see the doctor, to have a week off work from being that ill. But maybe me carried on and not learnt my lesson. Tried a crack, obviously a big low point, sucking it through the can, not knowing what I know now, and thinking I was a big man, but obviously not big at all. But as these years went on, I met this woman, and I was only 16, 17 then, and this woman used to sell drugs, and I became friendly with this woman. Well, I bought drugs off her, but we became friends, and I seen an opportunity that if I pushed it and went with this woman, I could get drugs free. So we used to go to raves every weekend, and then come back, and through the week I'd be cutting up all her drugs, bagging it all up, pinching some, bag some up, pinching some, bag some up, and really this woman was just there for me to benefit for myself. She was an older woman, she was 10 years older, but for me it was just using her for free drugs, and that is how selfish and single-minded I was. Where I had no care about nobody, just myself. This went on for a few years, to early 20s, probably around 20. But I was coming to a point in my life where I was going to work, and on my dinner break I was having a spliff sandwich and a can of Strumbo Super. And this went on for a long time. And I know that not everyone who knows me now will look at me thinking, what? But I've lived it and I've done it. But I kind of got sick of this lifestyle and fed up with drinking. And one time I come back off a bus, stopped off at the Netto Dudley, went over the road into a kickboxing gym, and I've walked in into this kickboxing gym, and the intimidation was there. I was walked in, and they're all good friends, and I know people in the gym will know them. I've walked in, I was the only white man in the gym. There was a lot of black people and all the taxi drivers from Dudley, and the guy's name was Blacker. Lovely bloke, but if you don't know him, he's a bit intimidating with his dreads and gold teeth. But yeah, signed up, done my first session. And in the first session, I know from coaching now, you learn a bit of basics and you enjoy the class. That first session, being the only white lad in there, they took me into sparring and absolutely beat me up. They've battered me and they've kicked me around and that. And I've walked out of there with my head spinning, thinking, knowing that, oh, I like that, I enjoyed that. So I've went back and I've went back and back and back. And then over time, obviously I've left that gym, gone to mixed gym down the road and met my instructor Dave. Now Dave used to go to church, but I didn't find this out for a few years. He was a Christian and I looked up to this guy, and I spent a lot of time with this guy. 8 years I spent with Dave, and we went on to winning European belts, British titles, world titles in semi-contact, countless national titles, and we just trained, and all we done was train. And I respected this guy because he had a nice house, nice car, nice missus, lovely family, and I modelled myself on that, and I wanted that. But it was more for the love of money and the way of life. But me and Dave, we went separate ways, and I went into my boxing after 8 years, achieving what I achieved, and yeah, I started boxing at the Priory Park. At this time, I bought my first place, bought me my apartment in Rowley, and I needed extra funds. So I was working a security guard in the day, and I started door work on the night. And this is where me and Bod met. Funny to think how we met years and years later at church. Bod was my supervisor, and I was a little young 21-year-old who could have a little fight but knew nothing of the world. We were at the doors, and Bod trained me up, and me and Bod, as good looking as we are, we had a lot of girls, we had a lot of women attention. We didn't have to do too much to take a girl home every Friday and Saturday night, and that was our way of life. We had an occasional fight, and it was good. We got paid for it. We could beat someone up, whatever happened, we was always covered by the people we was working for. We had the bit of the lifestyle, and it was decent cash. But always knew it was empty inside. And moving on to as we was coming to the end of our time at Monty's Wine Bar, we became frustrated, and it was coming to a time where me and Bod would just lash out for no reason because he could. And this weren't us. It weren't me, and it definitely weren't him. And we was just having fights because the influence, and looking back now, knowing what I know now of the world, it was a bad influence with bad people, and you wanted to become like that because it was there, and that's where we worked. But at this time, I met my ex-partner, who was a Christian, and she came to a Dudley Christian Fellowship. We dated, and at that time, I left Monty's and I started work up Birmingham doing personal training. And every time we drove back through Dudley, all I heard was, I've got to go back to church. I've got to go back to church. And me, I was sick of hearing it, so I said, come on, let's go. So I walked into church, and I walked in, sat down, and that very first time, it wasn't Pastor Joe, it was the old pastor. Everything he preached on that night related to my life. I thought, that's a bit weird, this is. But I enjoyed it, and we left. And the weeks went on. Well, actually, the months rolled on. We went to come back, but nothing really spoke. and nothing at all. And it wasn't until the old pastor, Willie, the old pastor was leaving to go back to Scotland, and he said, I'm leaving in 3 weeks. And I said to my ex-partner, I want to become a Christian, but I couldn't. Something put the fear in me to just hold my hand up, and that's all I had to do, just hold my hand up, and somebody would have come to me. So the 3rd week went, the 2nd week come, same again, I couldn't put my hand up. So the last week come, where he was leaving, and he gave his testimony, and his testimony was everything in my life about his selfish ways, loving his money, loving going out, getting drunk, fighting, enjoying it, really just enjoying the ways of the world. And something just came over me, and I just put my hand up. And I put my hand up to be prayed for, and Malcolm came over and prayed for me. And then I became a Christian, got baptised not so long after. But it isn't a quick fix where I become a Christian, my life changes, that's it, it's great. And I remember Dale saying to me, this is where it gets hard now. And I always thought, what's so hard? But then 4 years later, I've had loads and loads of things happen, going through seasons, going through hardship, going through hard times, good times with lots of things. And it's only now, 4 years later, I realised what Dale said to me, that being a Christian is one of the hardest things, because living like a Christian in an evil world is one of the hardest things that you have to do. But yeah, this is where I am today, and if it wasn't for meeting my ex-partner and her bringing me to this church, I wouldn't be the person I am today, with the things I've got today, and with the people around me today. So I thank her, and I thank Jesus for saving me, and that's my testimony.